checks to save our economy, $1.6 billion went to dead people, and the checks were cashed.
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vogt, welcome.
Thank you, Senator.
In my judgment, I do not know a single person in Washington or outside Washington who knows more about the federal budget than you do. I used to read your suggestions during President Trump's first term, many of which Congress ignored. We shouldn't have. I am delighted that the president picked you. I have read that since 2019, the population of America has increased 2%, and our spending has increased 55%. Under President Biden, I wish him well. If we had discovered life on Mars, he would have sent it money. Is that sustainable?
Senator, it's totally unsustainable. And the problem is that you go on these trajectories that we're currently on, and you don't know when you're going to get to the point of which you have some major problems as an economy, as a country. And we know that historically.
I hope you'll start with the low-hanging fruit. There's a lot. When we sent out stimulus checks to save our economy, $1.6 billion went to dead people, and the checks were cashed, obviously fraud. OMB has estimated that in fiscal year 2023, we sent out $1.3 billion of checks to dead people, which were cashed, obviously fraud. When you die in America, your name is sent to the Social Security Administration. As you know, you become part of the master death file. Senator Carper and I discovered that Social Security would not share that information with any other department of government. So we passed a bill saying you have to share it with Treasury and other people who write checks, so we'll stop paying dead people. Duh. We got pushback, believe it or not, on the bill. We had to agree to a trial period, and that trial period ends in 2026. Will you help us make that program permanent so we can stop paying dead people?
Yes, Senator.
Now, you served in Washington for years. You're going to be challenging the status quo. You're going to be called crazy. Many people also called Noah crazy. And then the rains came, and all the fact checkers died. You have to persevere. Now, I'm not asking you to get ahead of President Trump. But if you were king for a day, tell me how you would save money in the federal budget without impacting the American people.
Thank you, Senator. I think it's the strategy that we had in the first term, which is to go really and take a very close look at the agencies that are spending and wasting money, and I believe weaponized at times against the American people. When they put a 77-year-old Navy veteran in jail, Joe Robertson, for 18 months for building 4 ponds on his ranch to be prepared for wildfires, that's the EPA. I think we have to look at that, and we have to look at the agencies that Congress has a vote on every single year through the appropriations process. And then I think we need to go after the mandatory programs that Senator Cornyn mentioned that are keeping people out of the workforce because they have become not just a social safety net, but they have become a benefit hammock, and increasingly so in the aftermath of COVID, as many of these policies were impacting people's decisions to go back into the workforce. And I believe, and because we produced budgets along these lines, you can get sizable levels of savings and reforms that can lead to a balanced budget and get us back headed in a fiscal trajectory, not only that we would all be proud of, but we could say this is going to keep us from fiscal ruin.
My time's expired. Ella Porter, do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay, now's your shot. Thank you, Mr. Vogt, for your time.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good call there, young lady.
And that is where this hearing leaves us tonight. In a moment that sounds almost too surreal for a functioning superpower, Yet it is not a statistic spoken in satire. It is a statistic spoken into the congressional record. Senator John Kennedy looked directly at the nominee, the former OMB director, the man he said knows the federal budget better than almost anyone alive, and said, $1.6 billion went to dead people. And then another $1.3 billion, again, to dead people. Checks issued, cashed, fraud, not theoretical, fraud literal, fraud systemic. This moment matters because it is one of those rare hearings where it becomes impossible to pretend that complexity itself is the excuse. This is not obscure macroeconomic theory. This is not CBO long-tail modeling. This is not geopolitics. This is not culture war. This is the sheer absurdity and moral insult of a government so sprawling that the basic act of confirming whether someone is alive before sending money becomes optional, and even worse, bureaucratically protected. Kennedy was not performing a metaphor. Kennedy was naming a reality that corrodes the legitimacy of every future tax dollar collected. The nominee answered him clearly. It's unsustainable. And in that instant, the hearing snapped back to the simplest question in a self-governing republic. Can we trust our government to handle money at scale without treating the Treasury like a bottomless abstraction? It is not an exaggeration to say this is moral. When a system can get so loose, so automated, so protocol-driven, that paying dead citizens becomes normalized, the fracture is not just financial, it is philosophical. Because the entire reason a nation tolerates taxation is the belief that its government is the adult in the room. And then Kennedy said something revealing. He said, "You will be called crazy for trying to change this." He said Noah was called crazy. And then the rains came. The point was not theology. The point was inevitability. The point was the confirmation that all unsustainable systems eventually collide with their limits, and the collision doesn't ask who warned them first. This hearing was not the culture war version of Washington we've seen play out all year. This one was quieter, colder, more dangerous, because this was the Senate pointing at a weakness inside the federal architecture, not partisan, not ideological, but structural. Dead citizens should not be receiving public dollars. We should not need a pilot program ending in 2026 to stop it. Treasury should not need to negotiate with Social Security for the right to see its own nation's death rolls. This is the part Americans rarely see. The invisible machinery of government is where the country wins or fails, more than the rhetoric of any election cycle. A nation collapses not when its speeches fracture, but when its systems do. And in this hearing we saw power admit, calmly, on the record, that the United States is now riding the razor's edge of fiscal absurdity. Spending has exploded faster than population, faster than revenue, faster than reality can absorb. The nominee said outright, "This path ends in ruin if we do not choose another path." And the irony of this moment is that the most powerful nation on earth, with the most advanced information systems in history, still cannot reliably stop itself from issuing payments to the deceased. So, what is the moral meaning here? It is this: advanced nations do not fall because their citizens suddenly lose faith. They fall because their institutions slowly stop deserving it. And nothing erodes faith faster than the realization that government cannot, or will not, fix the problems that are obvious, solvable, measurable, and inexcusable. Tonight should not make Americans angry at each other. tonight should make Americans angry at the normalization of incompetence. The future is not saved through abstract ideological war. The future is saved through the unglamorous discipline of fixing what is broken. And hearings like this, uncomfortable, direct, simple, are the crucible where the system is either humbled into reform or seduced back into denial. This moment was a warning, a quiet one, delivered without shouting, delivered without insult, delivered with the cold clarity of math, death records, and fraud. And when hearings like this end, we cannot look away, because what collapses a nation is not corruption alone, but the willful acceptance of dysfunction as the price of politics. This is the Congress Brief. Subscribe to the Congress Brief